Now on a bonus Locked On Celtics podcast, Bill Chisholm talks about offseason decisions, Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla, and staying at TD Garden, or maybe not staying at TD Garden. It's bonus podcast on a Monday afternoon here on the Locked On Celtics podcast. Welcome back to the show. I'm John Karalis. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you bet $5, you can get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bill Chisholm spoke to the Boston Globe and Adam Himmelsbach and had a wide-ranging interview. I picked out 3 topics to talk about on this bonus podcast because later on, Tom Westerholm and I are going to talk Neemias Queta. So I have a whole big Neemias Queta podcast planned for the Tuesday show. So bonus podcast here on the interview with Bill Chisholm. So later on in the third segment, we'll get to whether or not the Celtics will stay at TD Garden. There's still some kind of up in the air whether they will or won't. Maybe that's negotiating. We'll see. Second segment, he talks about Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla. We'll save that for segment 2, but we'll start with his comments about this offseason and offseason decisions. And I wanted to start with this because there's some, I think, misconception out there about whether Bill Chisholm is ready to spend or not going to spend, or if he's cheap because of the way the Celtics handled the tax situation at the end of the trade deadline and all of that stuff. So here's the quote. He says, "I'll do whatever it takes. I think I've gotten a pretty good depth of knowledge around all the scaffolding to make those decisions. There will be times where there will be some tough decisions that I'm ready to make, but the most important decision is having that layer of management and leadership in place, and we've got that." So that kind of teases the second segment of Brad and Joe. But in his interview here, Chisholm says, I'm going to do whatever I can to win. I'm desperate to win. I want to win, all of that stuff. And so I believe that he is going to do what it takes to win. That's my impression, because I don't subscribe to he was cheap at the end of at the trade deadline. I think what the Celtics did was smart. They are a smart team. They're trying to do smart things. And the moves that they made were to set them up for a future where they didn't have any trade restrictions, where they didn't have the hard cap. All of the second apron, first apron stuff, that all went away. They can now spend money. They can use a full mid-level exception if they want. They have a traded player exception to use if they want. They traded Tillman, Boucher, and Minot, 3 guys who had fallen out of the rotation, who weren't playing. They upgraded Derrick. I keep saying Derrick. Ron Harper Jr. They upgraded him, and he's a contributor to the team. He's a guy who's actually playing. They upgraded Amari Williams. He has played, and he has, I believe, some semblance of a future here, potentially, in Boston. And Max Shulga, congratulations. You made a little extra money in this deal, part of the plan to get under the tax. Why? First of all, why pay the tax if you don't have to? Why do that if you don't have to? Not only do you not pay the tax, you get a tax payment from the taxpayers in the league. Why would you just say, you know what? I'd rather keep Tillman and Minot and those guys. Like, Minot's done some nice things for Brooklyn, but he wasn't going to be part of this rotation. Clearly, Joe Mazzulla has made that decision, and I kind of trust Joe Mazzulla at this point. I'm not going to look at all of the stuff that Joe Mazzulla has done and then say, man, you really screwed up on Josh Minot. Look at what he's gotten out of all of these guys. He's earned the benefit of the doubt. So those guys gone. The guys that are in deserve to be there. 1 guy, 2 guys not getting minutes. Who cares who those guys? You can put me there. You can put anybody there. It doesn't matter who's in those seats. And Ron Harper Jr. now gets to be playoff eligible. So it makes sense. Now they go into the summer and they have an opportunity. You can stay under the tax if you want to try that. It kind of depends on Vucevic and how he plays. Do they want to keep him? What's he going to want money-wise? At this point, I Can't imagine he's going to be very expensive. So you can keep him. The development of Neemias Queta has been huge. The development of Luka Garza has been huge. I think the way they've played in this system shows that the system can be effective with them. So the Celtics offseason this summer could be a whole lot different than the summer we thought they were going to have just a few months ago. So you go into it saying, hey, we have an opportunity to keep a team together that who knows what they're going to do. Get to the finals, win a championship. Everything is possible with these guys. You go into a summer, stay under the tax, and then say, well, if it doesn't work, you still have the option of spending money at the deadline, trading for somebody at the deadline. If for some reason, and one element to this team's success this year is that everybody is under contract. I think that's kind of been an under discussed part of all of this. The Celtics don't have any free agents this upcoming season, right? This summer, you got team options on Shireman, Queta, Walsh, Amari, Shulga. All of these guys have team options. Vooch is your only free agent. And what's he gonna demand? Taxpayer mid-level at most. And at this point, the way he looked recently, I don't know if he's going to be, if he's going to get that either. So you could bring Vooch back very, very cheap. Everybody's basically under contract, and that brings you peace of mind, a freedom to play. Now, next year, if you pick up all the team options, you have Garza becoming a free agent in the summer of 2027. You have Queta becoming a free agent. You got Walsh. You got Amari restricted, Max Shulga restricted, Ron Harper unrestricted. There are guys who are going to be playing for things. So even if you bring back the entire same team, even if they win a championship, even if they get close, whatever it is, you can bring them all back next year, and all of a sudden motivations could change. So you could try it again next summer. And do you get the same buy-in? What happens with all of these guys? Do they want more money? Are they going to be playing for more money? Are they going to start getting selfish? It's entirely possible. You got a lot of young guys in their early 20s that are going to want to get paid. Neemias Queta is going to be 27 next year. So the Celtics pick up his team option, $2.7 million. They may need to work on an extension for him. That's going to be something we'll talk about on the next podcast. But whatever that is, they're going to have to figure some stuff out. Kate is going to want to get paid. This is his chance. This is his chance to get paid, right? He's going to be 27 at 30, 31. The odds of still being that good start to dwindle a little bit, and getting paid for the future. Just, so my point is, when it comes to making these tough decisions, and Bill Chisholm saying, we're going to do what we got to do, and I'm going to do what it takes. You can go into the summer with a plan, with the openness of, hey, that plan has to be flexible, because next year's team's not going to be this year's team, and motivations next year are not going to be the same as motivations as this year. And there's always going to be the potential for something going wrong. A guy who was great this year is going to spend this summer being around friends and family, and everybody's like, man, look how good you are. You deserve more. You deserve more minutes. You deserve more playing time. You deserve more money. So things change over the summer. The Celtics have to be flexible. So even if they go into the summer with a plan to say, yeah, we are going to spend money, we are going to be, or we're not going, we're going to stay under the tax. You have to be able to spend money. So right now, I believe Bill Chisholm when he says, I'll do whatever it takes. But there is still going to be a little bit of, okay, prove it when it comes time to look at the roster. And if it's not working the same way it did this year, when November, December, January comes around, Are you willing to spend at that point? Are you going to, how's that going to go? So I believe Bill Chisholm. I believe him. But he still also hasn't had the opportunity to prove it. And he's going to have to prove it. We'll get into now what he said about Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla. That all ties into all of this when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by Quo. It's the spring. It's a natural reset point. And one thing that can quietly cost business money, it's messy communication, missed calls, scattered text, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your whole team share one business number, so you never miss a call, a text, or opportunity. I'm telling you, getting everybody on the same page, making sure everybody's saying the same thing to customers, making sure they're all have the same answers to questions, that is huge. You need the whole team to see the conversation, which they can do on Quo, so nothing falls behind the cracks. AI summaries save serious time by logging calls and highlighting next steps automatically, so you can get yourself organized and be more responsive. Make this the season, no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, quo.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day and being with me Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts like this one during the week. When something comes up, I will talk about it. So you get your bonus podcasts when they play on a Friday or a Saturday. You'll get your bonus podcasts when things happen during the week. So you'll get 6, 7, 8, 9 podcasts, whatever it is. I'll be here for you. Make sure you're subscribed to get the show daily. You're guaranteed Monday through Friday. I'm John Karalis. I'm a beat writer covering the Celtics for Sports Illustrated's Celtics on SI. I've been covering this team for 20 years. I've been doing this podcast for 10. So if there's one thing I know, it's the Boston Celtics. And Bill Chisholm, the owner of the Boston Celtics, says he is very happy to keep Joe and Brad around. This quote in the Globe, again, this is a whole piece in the Boston Globe with Adam Himmelsbach, and go read it there at the Globe. These are just a couple of things. There's a lot more there. He says, I do not take it for granted. He's talking about Stevens and Mazzulla. I do not take that for granted. I look around at the owners' meetings and talking to other folks and hear of the challenges they have and the wholesale changes they have to make, not just to their rosters, but their management. It's extraordinary here. It's all I know, but I know enough to know this is not normal to have this. I'm going to fight and claw and do everything in my power to make sure we keep it going with those guys. So this isn't just new owner saying, yeah, I want to keep my guys. This is new owner saying, I don't care. There's a story where the Phoenix, who one of these teams was like, yeah, no, we want Brad Stevens. We want Joe Mazzulla. Like, no, you're not going to get those guys. College comes for Joe. No, you're not going to get Joe or Brad. You're not going to get Brad. This is whatever these guys might be thinking. I'm going to do what I can to keep them here. Now, the good thing is Brad has a very level head. Now, he might, because this is a job and a business and there's negotiations, it's very easy to kind of float the, oh yeah, this other team wants me, huh? Well, what are you willing to give me? What are you willing to pay? Just kind of float a little something out there and just see if, okay, Bill, you really want me to stay? You really want to fight and claw? All right, let's see a little fighting and clawing then. And listen, I'm not opposed to that. You got to do what's good for you, man. We are watching the Celtics. You're a Celtics fan. You want nothing but what's best for the team. You have a sense of civic pride when they do well. You feel good when they do well. But these are jobs. This is how they earn their money. Brad Stevens has earned a lot of money doing this job really, really well. You earn a little bit more. You want to fight and claw, as he says in this quote? fight and claw and do everything in my power to make sure we keep it going with these guys. All right, well, this contract's coming up. How about a little more fighting and clawing here? There's another 0 in there. Look, how does another 0 look? Is that fighting and clawing? Why not? I don't think Brad's going to go anywhere. I don't think he's going to do anything stupid. If he angles for a raise, good for him. Joe just signed an extension, so he's around for a little while. I don't know the length of the extension, but he's around for a little while. Joe has a great attitude about how all of this goes. He knows someday he's like, I'll be fired. We all get fired someday, and that's generally true. I don't know what Joe's mental state's going to be with this team. I keep mentioning it. Like we do have to start wrapping our heads around the eventual time where Jaylen and Jayson do go away. It's not that far off when you consider this is Jaylen's 10th year. We've been talking about Jaylen Brown for 10 years already, and that went by pretty quick. The next 5 or 6 or 7, that's not going to drag on. That's going to go quick too. And I don't know, but Joe's a local guy. He's a Rhode Islander like me. We don't want to go anywhere. We'll sit here. We'll complain. I'll sit there in 10-degree weather, shoveling 3 feet of snow going, why do I live here? But I'm not exactly looking to leave. We like it here. We're tough. We like the winters. We're built like that. All of us, New Englanders, we're stupid. We got attitudes. We're not going to let some weather scare us away. Come on. Joe's not going to go anywhere. He loves this. He's coaching his favorite team. He grew up a Celtics fan. You get to be a legend here. So I think Bill Chisholm is a little on the lucky side with these guys, but I would always advise these guys to not let blind loyalty get in the way. I think Bill Chisholm seems to be the guy that will negotiate in good faith. I would hope. But hey, you gotta protect yourself. And I think Joe's a fighter. He knows no matter, you could be in a ring, you could be in that cage with a friend, and they're still going to try to knock your block off. And it's kind of the same thing. This team with Brad and Joe, whatever we think it's going to be, you could probably add a 10%, 15% Brad Stevens adjustment to it, a 10 to 15% Joe Mazzulla adjustment to it, because Brad, and not just Brad, whenever I say Brad, I mean the entire front office. And whenever I say Joe, I mean the entire coaching staff. With these guys, whatever you think a team's going to be, you can add 30% to it, because Brad is going to go find the players that fit somehow, or gives themselves a chance to fit, right? Luka Garza is my go-to, because you know how hard he works, and you know what he's capable of, and you know what his strengths are. You say, it didn't fit here in Minnesota, but we have no bigs in Boston, and his hard work and effort and offensive rebounding, that could actually work here. So let's give him a shot. Let's give him, he's going to be the scrap heap guy that we give a shot. And boom, works. Because Joe Mazzulla now gets this guy and gets into his head and taps into the hard worker and says, don't worry when I don't play you. Trust me, it's just a thing that in 4 days you could be starting. And just trust me, this is not about you. We're just hang with me. And he builds these relationships with these guys, and he gets the most out of them too. So no matter what happens, the Celtics have clearly figured out the second apron ins and outs, partly because Wick Grossbeck, it was one of the people that was in on creating it. They in their scouting, they understand who fits, who doesn't. And Joe Mazzulla just taps into guys and what they do well and don't do well, and gets them to respond. And if something doesn't go well, Joe and Brad will talk, and that guy will be gone. And it's simple as that. So, yeah, I'd fight and claw to keep those guys too. All right, maybe the most interesting thing, I saved what might be the best for last, is the quote about TD Garden, which may be a little bit of negotiation happening. We'll talk about that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NBA playoffs are right around the corner, and every possession matters. Every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5, and you get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, the extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. The Celtics have they've clinched no worse than a third seed, so they will probably get the second seed. You can bet a future on what the Celtics are going to do, their next matchup, how deep a run they're going to make. It's all there at FanDuel.com. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. When you sign up, they will ask you to set a limit, set a budget. Please do so because they will help you gamble responsibly. Whatever your disposable income is, whatever you can afford to lose, that's your budget. Gamble responsibly so you can have some fun at FanDuel. Play your game. Today's show also brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season, it's tax time. But for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. Just like that, you are done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Being an everydayer, joining me Monday through Friday. Again, this is a bonus podcast. This is going to be your sixth podcast of the week, maybe more. If you're an everydayer, now get Locked On Celtics ad-free at the Everydayer Club and members-only Discord access. You go to lockedonceltics.supercast.com. It's $5 a month, $50 for the year, so you get 2 months free if you pay up front. You get ad-free audio compatible with every podcasting app that's out there, so check it out. Final quote. This is, again, all from the Boston Globe's interview with Bill Chisholm, which I recommend because this is one of, I picked 3 questions out. There's probably a dozen questions in there, so it's worth reading. But this one really stuck out to me, and it's TD Garden. And these are just little snippets of the answers. But Bill Chisholm says, my starting point is if we can make it work, we'd love to stay where we are. And making it work means improving the fan experience and the player experience. If we can do those things and remain where we are now, that's great. If it doesn't work there, we'll think about other places. But my goal here is to see if we ideally make it work where we are. The improving the fan experience and the player experience. The player experience is the thing that sticks out to me the most. The fan experience, you guys tell me, because I work there, you tell me, I think the fan experience is pretty good. There's a lot of restaurants. I think the area around TD Garden is pretty safe. I walk out there. It's generally pretty good. There are tons of bars and restaurants. There's upscale, there's medium scale, there's, dive bars. There's everything for different age groups. I've been around TD Garden. I've been there for other events. I've been there for concerts and comedy shows. It's generally, I think, a good experience for fans. The arena, I was just talking to somebody last night. The arena is actually, for a building that's 20, 25 years old, whatever, it's in fantastic condition. I've been around the league. I've seen most other arenas. The Celtics arena, TD Garden, still compares very favorably to most of these arenas, if not all of them, maybe with some exception. the Chase Center, the brand new arenas. But even that, like the technology at Chase Center is great. The scoreboard. I haven't been to the Clippers arena, so I don't know. But TD Garden is everything seems great. So you tell me if I'm wrong. I think the fan experience is pretty good. The player experience is the one that is interesting to me because I've also been in other locker rooms and I've seen some home locker rooms that are like, wow, just wow. What kind of, this is amazing. Huge, so much space, TVs in lockers, the crazy little things that are just, that make it so incredible. A full weight room, full everything. What the Celtics have is kind of small. They have, there's a whole back section that I don't even know, so I can't tell you what's back there. They share it with the Bruins, so I'm sure there's some nice stuff there. I've never been inside of the actual Bruins locker room, so I don't know how that looks. But I'm assuming it probably looks a little bit better because we're talking about the Bruins owners owning the building. So I do expect some kind of improvements from the player experience at some point, somehow. They even changed where the guys come in. So they changed where they park, how they come into the building and all of that stuff. They've changed a few things over the years. There are some spaces that I can think of, just offshoots that they can maybe remodel, expand, and make the locker rooms a little bit bigger, maybe add some stuff and change kind of how everything kind of fits. I don't know, but that's going to be a work in progress. They still have a few years. They just re-upped their lease, so they're going to be there for, I think, another 8-9 years. So there's time, and there's certainly time for things to go bad, certainly time for things to work out. I don't know where they would go. I've talked about a new building a bunch. I don't know where in Boston you would build a new arena. There are some spots. Maybe do you go into the Seaport area? That place has been pretty developed at this point. Do you go into there are a couple of do you go next to the casino? Do you do something? There's a spot there. There's been a plan that kind of floated out there of eminent domain, and you got a lot of environmental cleanup. It's going to be a super massively expensive thing to do, but it would keep the Celtics fairly close without being too disruptive. Put them next to the casino, which I'm sure the casino would like. To have access to that big arena. Maybe you work in conjunction with the casino to fill that arena on off nights. It would, I'm sure, open up a lot of competition. I don't know how Delaware North, the Bruins owners, the Jacobs family, would react to that. I don't know how much palm greasing they would do to try to prevent it. That's certainly an element that would have to happen on both sides. So I'm very curious to see how they pull this off. My feeling is this quote is more negotiation, more I'll threaten, I'll leave open the possibility of leaving. Hey, I'm a venture capitalist. I found a way to get $6 billion to buy the team. Don't think I won't find a way to get a couple billion more to build a new building. You're going to have to also, on top of it, you're going to spend another $500 million at some point to buy a WNBA team, because that's how this is trending in probably 5 years. Now that the Connecticut Sun are moving. But there's going to be a Boston WNBA team at some point. And so they may just use the building that could be part of the draw. I don't know. But I feel like this is more negotiating than it is I'm actually considering leaving. I think there are ways to expand the facilities in the back to make it a little bit more player friendly. And that's something that you probably want a partnership. Like, you don't want to just have the Celtics spending that money themselves. So there's going to be a partnership there to kind of expand all of that. We'll see how that goes, but that's my take on that. I don't think they're actually going to move, but listen, if they do, as long as they keep it close, it's not the worst thing in the world. It really isn't, because if you build a great arena that's nearby and it's not that difficult to get to, and you get the right public transportation and all that stuff, you can create something that's really, really cool. Just because the old stuff was one place doesn't mean you have to put the new stuff in that same place. You're just going to make the new stuff accessible to people and make it easy for people to get there and make the experience really great. If they build it in the right place and people can get there and people can park there and it doesn't screw up the traffic and all that stuff, which is damn near impossible to do in Boston, but if they can find a way and pull it off, I'm telling you, one successful season in that new building, everybody forget about, oh, well, the old Garden and blah, blah, blah in history. You walk into that building, like, oh, wow, this is actually pretty nice. And the experience is great. And this big scoreboard and all of that stuff. And the locker rooms and the players love it. People, one season is all it would take. Trust me on that. But you can't move them to, Braintree. You can't move them out to, wherever. You got to stay within the city limits of Boston. You certainly can't go too far west, too far. You got to stay within Boston. So we do not want a Palace of Auburn Hills situation here. So those are my takes here on Bill Chisholm and his interview in the Boston Globe. Again, there's a lot in there. So go ahead and check that out at the Globe. And thank you for listening. This is a bonus podcast. So every once in a while, I'll get bonus podcasts out here during the day. Try to get it posted so the audio is available for your drive home from work. So check it out. Even if you want to listen to it later, it's there for you whenever. You can listen to it on your way home from work tomorrow, whatever. You got options, baby. You got options. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate you subscribing and becoming an everydayer. Join the Everydayer Club at LockedOnCeltics.supercast.com for ad-free audio, $5 a month or $50 for the year. Subscribe on YouTube. Watch the show there. Get into the comment section. Share your thoughts with me. And then share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.